Mr. Speaker, Alberta is the epicenter of the energy downturn, and yet Premier Prentice was able to table a budget today on time in this fiscal year. Premier Wall did the same last week in Saskatchewan. The economists that advise this government say there's no credible reason for procrastination. Will the finance minister stop playing peekaboo with Canadians and table a budget investing in the real drivers of economic growth: infrastructure, access to higher learning, innovation, effective trade, and environmental credibility? Will he do that in this fiscal year?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Mr. Speaker, we know very well that we're in a fragile global economy, and of course this country has been impacted by the dramatic fall in oil prices. Mr. Speaker, that is even more reason to stick to our government's plan that has generated almost 1.2 million net new jobs since the end of the recession. It is because of our actions that the overall federal tax burden is at its lowest level in 50 years. But, Mr. Speaker, the solution is not a tax hike on the middle class like the Liberal leader is proposing, and the solution is certainly not a $20 billion carbon tax that would hurt Canada's economy and kill Canadians' jobs. Our government has a low tax plan for jobs and growth for all sectors of the Canadian economy that is working.
The Honourable Member for Wascana.
Well, Mr. Speaker, decent economic growth is not Canada's reality. And despite the government's boasting, they're not doing better than the rest of the world. Last fall, before the oil downturn, the IMF projected 139 countries would grow faster this year than Canada. In the OECD, there were 16, including Greece. More recently, the OECD has downgraded Canadian growth while upgrading many others: the US, Europe, Japan, Germany, France, India. Why is the government content to have the worst economic growth record in 8 decades?
The Honourable Parliamentary Secretary to the Minister of Finance.
Since forming government, we have had the strongest economic growth record of any country in the G7. We have created almost 1.2 million net new jobs, and we have launched the largest federal infrastructure plan in Canada's history. The G20 Summit's action plan singled out Canada for our strong growth. The IMF and OECD both project that Canada will have among the strongest growth in the G7 in the years ahead. We will not take lessons from the Liberals who think that budgets balance themselves.